This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you doing on this rainy Tuesday? I hope you guys are staying dry. It's very, very humid outside over here in West Alabama. Appreciate everybody jumping in and joining us on the Joe Gaither Show right here on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. My name is obviously Joe Gaither. You are the listener and the viewer. You're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Joe Gaither 6 or on the Bama Central YouTube channel, or you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, Amazon, or Spotify. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can find the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. We appreciate everybody who subscribed, rated, and reviewed the show. We invite you to jump in at Joe Gaither 6 on the Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, or wherever you find your favorite social medias. And you can send me a comment, question, query, or complaint about the show, or just about the weather, or about Alabama, or whatever you want to talk about. If you're paying attention to the rap battle that's going on in hip-hop, I know nothing about hip-hop, but that has been taking over my Twitter machine. So if you want to talk about anything, you can find me at Joe Gaither 6. What are we going to do today? We're going to have a bunch of random topics, because there's not really much going on, really, presently, like active with Alabama athletics. Obviously, Alabama baseball is taking on Troy tonight, and you heard our friend Will Miller yesterday on the program breaking down the Alabama baseball season kind of as it's been and setting up the last couple of weeks of the year, as there's, 2 more weeks until SEC baseball tournament. So you can check out Will Miller's baseball coverage this evening as Alabama's taking on the Troy Trojans. What we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy odds. Some Heisman Trophy odds have been updated by DraftKings. We're going to talk about a couple of transfer portal targets. Is Alabama zeroing in maybe on a lineman, maybe on another safety? How are they playing with the numbers? The numbers are very, very tight, and so we'll talk about transfer portal targets. We're going to talk about Alabama softball. Alabama softball's opening up SEC play tomorrow, and it's been a rocky season, really, as far as Alabama softball standards go, but still scheduled, still slated to host a regional, NCAA regional, so we'll talk about Alabama softball. The Arkansas Razorbacks got a very strange commitment for football. What's the oldest freshman that you know? We'll talk about that for Arkansas, and we'll finish it up with a little NBA Rookie of the Year, as Brandon Miller finished third in the NBA Rookie of the Year voting. All right, so let's get started. Where do we want to start? I got a bunch of tabs open on my computer, and we'll just take them one by one. And let's go first with Heisman Trophy odds. How about that? Heisman Trophy odds got updated by DraftKings. And here's how. Let's look at the top 10, and let's pick who we think might win, and let's pick who's going to be the best value. Look, Quinn Ewers at plus 900. The Texas quarterback is leading your odds right now. He's tied with Carson Beck, Georgia quarterback. Then you got Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma quarterback. You got Jalen Milroe plus 1,400. Comes in at fourth. Dylan Gabriel is plus 1,000. Jalen Milroe at plus 1,400. Will Howard at plus 1,500, the new Ohio State quarterback. Jackson Dart at plus 1,800, Ole Miss quarterback. You got Garrett Nussmeier plus 2,000. LSU quarterback Nico Iamaleava, the Tennessee quarterback, is also plus 2,000. Cam Ward plus 2,500. Miami quarterback Avery Johnson. Plus 3,000, just a wide receiver out of Kansas State. And then you got a couple other SEC quarterbacks, Jackson Arnold at plus 3,000, Brady Cook at plus 3,500, and Connor Wigman at plus 3,500. So look, it's way early. I don't know if you guys are gamblers or not. I like to look at the odds, but I don't like to lose money. I think that really these Heisman odds are a bit of a way to sucker you in, a bit of a way to, look, they make you think that you know what you're looking at. I know, look, Jalen Milroe is the easy answer at plus 1,400. He was sixth in the Heisman Trophy last year. He's going to have another season under his belt of experience. And I think that the wide receiving core is going to be better. And I think that the offense as a whole is going to be more conducive to Jalen Milroe's skill sets. So, well, if you like Jalen Milroe, like what he did last year, I do think his numbers are going to be better. I think Jeremy Bernard is probably going to be a better wide receiver one than Jermaine Burton was last year, and I think Kendrick Law and and Kobe Prentice are probably better in this coming up season than Isaiah Bond was last year. I think that Jalen Milroe is a good bet at plus 1,400. But if I had $100 and you said, Joe, you have to spend that $100, you have to spend this $100 and wager on this year's Heisman Trophy winner. I do like Jalen Milroe at plus 1,400, and I do think, look, those are great odds. All these odds are pretty good because it's plus juice on your money. But I'm going to go with Jackson Dart. I'm going to go with Jackson Dart because of Ole Miss's schedule. Ole Miss football schedule is really, really favorable, and we will talk about the SEC schedules later on in the month as we'll kind of project who we think is going to do well in the SEC. But looking at this Ole Miss schedule, it is ripe for the taking for Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, SEC veteran, and he's currently at plus 1,800. So more favorable odds for you, the gambler. Obviously, the folks at DraftKings think he's less likely to win the Heisman than Jalen Milroe, but more favorable odds. This schedule is soft as a baby's bottom. Ole Miss takes on Furman, MTSU, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern to get their season going. All right, I don't want to disrespect my friends who love Georgia Southern and went to Georgia Southern. I got a lot of friends, and my mother got her master's degree at Georgia Southern as well. So I got a ties there, but like these are not football powers. You get 4 cakewalks off the bat. And then you got Kentucky, South Carolina. Okay, LSU, here's your tough game. Obviously, what was it last year? Ole Miss and LSU was like 50-something to 48. It was super high scoring, back and forth. Plenty of opportunity for Jackson Dart to put up big numbers. We'll see if LSU's defense is improved on last year. God, it was terrible last year. You get Oklahoma coming to Oxford. Arkansas, not good. Georgia coming to Oxford. There's your toughest game right there. Georgia coming to Oxford November 9th. And then you go and down to Gainesville, going down to Florida, and you have Mississippi State as your rivalry game to close it out. No Alabama, no Texas on your schedule, no Tennessee on your schedule. Sure, Oklahoma is a formidable opponent. LSU is a formidable opponent. Georgia coming in is a formidable opponent. You've got 3 real games all later in the year, all where, look, the television spotlight's going to be right there on Ole Miss, especially if they get off to a, 4-0 start, 5-6-0 start after beating Kentucky and South Carolina. You're 6-0 going into LSU on October 12th. Oh, boy, that game's going to be on it's going to be on ESPN. It's going to be on CBS. Oh, shoot. It's not going to be on CBS. No more SEC on CBS. It's going to be right there on ESPN at probably, since it's Baton Rouge, at probably 5, 6 o'clock. Jackson Dart goes up and tries to replicate his good game against LSU. I think he is a really good pick if you're looking for a value bet. Now, obviously, you've got Quinn Ewers and that offense under Steve Sarkisian at plus 900, and I think Carson Beck's going to have a good year with behind that Georgia offensive line. But if I were choosing, if I had $100 and you made me bet on one of these guys to win the Heisman Trophy, I like the Jalen Milroe at plus 1,400. I think that he's going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist again if he stays healthy. I think Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to put him into really, really good positions. But I think that Jalen Milroe's schedule is more difficult than Jackson Dart's schedule. And if I were betting, I'm looking for the value, and I'm going to bet on Jackson Dart. So, look, you can let me know who you think is Heisman Trophy favorite. If you want to go off the board, please let me know. Look, if you think Jalen Milroe is not even the best candidate on Alabama's team, Justice Haynes, maybe. I know it's not really a running back award anymore. The last 3 running backs to win the award? Weren't they all Alabama? The last 2 running backs to win the award? Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram? Were there any in between Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry? I don't think so. So it's not really a running back award. And obviously Devontae Smith being the last wide receiver. Let's see, Jaden Daniels, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. Yeah, no. Those are the last 2 running backs to win the award. So basically, you want to place a smart bet, pick a quarterback. Obviously, Caleb Williams winning last year. We'll see if it comes back to the SEC. If I had to pick my $100, Jackson Dart is my $100 winner. All right, so let's keep going more off the table, more random stuff today. I saw this story, and look, This is not an Arkansas show. This is not really a Razorback show, but Monty Harrison, if you're paying attention to the SEC, Monty Harrison, 28 years old, commits to join what? Commits to play football at Arkansas? Okay. Monty Harrison was a 4-star wide receiver in the 2014 class. And now, look, he went into minor league baseball, played a little bit of professional baseball for the drafted by the Brewers. He was assigned to Arizona League Brewers, yada, yada, yada. He played for the Miami Marlins a little bit of time. He's now out of the MLB, and he wants to restart a football career despite committing to Nebraska out of high school. Harrison did not use any eligibility as a football player and instead opted to play professional baseball. Today, 10 years later, he commits to play football for Arkansas. He's going to join the Razorbacks as a walk-on coming up this season. So at least, Sam Pittman, you're not using a scholarship on this guy. But just further evidence that even in the SEC, look, we talk about different levels of this game, but even in the SEC, you're not playing football. Arkansas, sure, they can upset Texas, they can upset Oklahoma, they can upset Alabama or Tennessee. They can get an upset for sure any given Saturday, right? But they're not really playing the same sport. Arkansas and Sam Pittman, I think that they are on their last season together. I just laughed at that when it came across my wire today. I thought 28 years old as a true freshman, he's going to be a walk-on wide receiver. At what point do you give up on your athletic dreams and you get with the real world? You played some minor league and a little bit of Major League Baseball. Good for you, Monty Harrison. But I guess you're not getting a free education because you're walking on. I wonder if there's some NIL deal at play there. Don't really understand the connection and how this all came to be. But 28 years old, Monty Harrison, we wish you the best of luck. Maybe he'll be the best wide receiver in the SEC. Highly, highly, highly doubtful on that. I want to talk about actual action. Actual action today is in the SEC tournament. You got Ole Miss and Kentucky is starting the SEC tournament at 6 o'clock. So about an hour from now, and you can watch it on SEC Network. Wednesday, Alabama gets started in the SEC tournament. Alabama going, 28 SEC tournaments in a row. Used to be, had to qualify for the SEC tournament. Now everyone basically gets in because of the expansion and the like. But it's going to be down there in Auburn. The ladies under 500 in the SEC for the first time in Patrick Murphy's tenure. Despite that being under 500, they're still scheduled to host a regional round in the NCAA tournament. They're currently on the 16 line. Top 16 seeds host the regional round, and then the next round, super regionals, go to the top 8 remaining seeds after that. And so you've got a great history, Alabama softball hosting regionals and doing very well, obviously doing very well under Patrick Murphy. And they're going for their 7th SEC tournament title this weekend. You had kind of a rocky year. Under 500, you're 4-8 in your last 12 games. And I think you only won one SEC series this year. But it all gets restarted. You can watch it tomorrow at 10 a.m. on SEC Network. And really, we just spent some time with Patrick Murphy out there in the parking lot. That's a little bit of the reason why this show's coming to you a little later in the day than it usually does. We spent some time with Patrick Murphy in the parking lot as the program was getting ready to go down to Auburn. And essentially said two things. Well, a couple of things. Said, one, we are treating this as a brand new season, clean slate for everybody. Which I think is is the right approach, because look, everything that you've done already doesn't matter. If you have a good weekend this weekend, if you have a good week, this week, you will be hosting a regional round. Boom, one goal, check. You're in the NCAA tournament, check. I mean, you're in the NCAA tournament pretty much regardless of what happens this week down there in Auburn. But you have a nice little run, then boom, you have secured your hosting position in the NCAA tournament. Another year hosting right there at the Rhodes House, at Rhodes Stadium. And great for you. He said, okay, treat it like a new slate. Second, we want to have better pitch selection, talking about improvement through the year and basically saying we got to get better at the plate. That's been a given. Goodness gracious. They've had such a tough time at the plate and on offense all year long. Basically saying we're emphasizing pitch selection over the weekend. We'll see how that goes for them. And then two more things that he really said that stuck out to me was one, okay, you're playing LSU tomorrow. Alabama has not played LSU this season. He said, okay, I'm excited about playing a team that we haven't seen 3 times this year. There's a little unfamiliarity, fresh start. There's a little bit of, you don't rely on past experiences. And so, okay, you're excited about playing LSU. Now, the LSU Tigers have 4 or 5 COVID year seniors. So they're very, very experienced. If you look at the NCAA projections, LSU is sitting there at number 9. So definitely better than Alabama. Now it was LSU getting the 8 seed and Alabama getting the 9 seed. So they're right there neck and neck in conference play. But you look at LSU, they've drawn the second most walks in the conference this season. And so all the pressure is right there on the pitchers for Alabama. Brisky and Beaver had strong seasons right there in the circle, but because of the ineptitude on the offensive side, there's been tons and tons of pressure on the pitchers. And essentially, Coach Murphy saying our focus is not to walk batters, not to walk leadoff batters, not to walk any batters. Don't give 3 base runners. I think if the girls do that, then they're going to give themselves a good chance tomorrow morning. It's going to be 10 a.m. You might be at work or wherever you are. Just pull it up on your if you want to listen to Tom and Gray, the play-by-play guys for Alabama for Crimson Tide Sports Network. You can check them out on 97.5, right here locally in Tuscaloosa, or 97.5 MeTV app. If you're not in the area, you can check them out. But it's going to be a fresh start for the girls. Everything, all the frustration ideally goes out the window as the new season starts. And so I'm really looking forward to getting up and putting that on the TV tomorrow morning as I get the day going. And we'll see if the girls can advance in the SEC tournament. They got LSU tomorrow at 10 a.m. The winner takes on Tennessee. Takes on Tennessee the next day, Thursday at 10 a.m. But ideally, you kind of, just like Coach Murphy said, you wipe the slate clean and you go play ball and you leave it all out there on the field down there in Auburn this weekend. Does it help or hurt that you were down there in Auburn this past weekend? I'm not quite sure. You had 3 really, really tough games against the Auburn Tigers, winning the 1 and then losing 2 in kind of dramatic fashion. But on Thursday and Saturday? Yeah, Thursday and Saturday, winning the Friday game for Alabama. So we'll see what they do. We'll keep up with that. I know my friend Katie Wyndham is not in town, so we'll have Edwin Stanton, we'll have Will Miller, we'll have Matthew Gibson, all of those guys doing coverage of the SEC tournament on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. So let me close those tabs right there. Alabama softball, boom and boom. Let's go into football recruiting, at least for transfer portal news. We already talked about Deshaun Jones from Wake Forest. We talked just a little bit about Gino Vandermark, the interior offensive lineman out of Michigan State. I read up and wrote about him a little bit yesterday in preparation for what sounds like a pending get for Alabama. It sounds like Gino Vandermark is going to be, both sides are talking to one another, and it seems like there's interest there, a high interest for both sides. Now, you know this just as well as I do, that high interest can turn and twist and dissipate immediately. So if you're listening to this, just keep up with the updates right there at BamaCentral.com. But it sounds like Alabama is very close to securing Gino Vandermark, redshirt junior from Michigan State. Now, why is this important? We've talked about it on the program a couple times already, but you need to have someone. I think the Parker Brailsford's going to be a good lineman, but you need to have someone who can step in if, my personal issues aren't quite resolved by the time fall camp happens, or potentially I don't quite fit in the system, in the Chris Kapilovich blocking scheme, potentially. I think that Parker Brailsford is going to be a good player, but you don't want to have a situation where Brailsford has an injury or an issue, and you're turning to true freshmen to play that center position right here in the SEC. And when you look at the roster, you look at the construction, I think that this Alabama offense is, set up to be one of the better offenses in the country. What's a way that can derail it? Bad snaps or interior pressure, because you're playing someone who's inexperienced along the offensive line at the center position if Parker Brailsford wasn't to work out. And so Gino Vandermark fills that need perfectly, really. He started in 8 games over the last 2 years up at Michigan State. He's played in 18 games over the last 2 years at Michigan State. He's been in and out of the lineup with a little injury issues, but my man's is like 6'5", 295. Played a lot of right guard. All right, we've got a right guard. You've got a right guard right there in Jaden Roberts. Left guard with Tyler Booker. You're pretty much set at your guard position. So sorry, Gino Vandermark, you're not really going to be getting on the field in that capacity. Unless an injury happens, which heaven forbid, we don't pull for any injuries. We want everybody to be very, very healthy. But you need somebody who can play center. And Gino Vandermark has done that sporadically at the college level already, and his body matured to a college degree already. This will be his 4th year in college as a redshirt junior. He'll have 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. And if you look at the depth chart, if you're Gino Vandermark, you say, oh, I come in as a backup center, or maybe I challenge Parker Brailsford for that center position. Tyler Booker, you call back to a week ago when we did the projected 2025 first-round draft picks. Tyler Booker being the only Alabama player on Dane Brugler's list. Okay, Tyler Booker goes into the NFL at left guard, and Gino Vandermark slides right into the left guard position as the pending, 2025 season. Works out perfectly. You replace Tyler Booker with a redshirt senior who's played a lot of football, and then you make the other connection. Well, Gino Vandermark's been playing football for Chris Kapilovic for the last 3 seasons. Redshirted, redshirt freshman, and redshirt sophomore. Chris Kapilovic spent a month out there in Baylor before coming to Tuscaloosa to join the Kalen DeBoer staff, and so you've got familiarity there. I think that Gino Vandermark is really your new number 1 target in the transfer portal. After you got Deshaun Jones, the cornerback, you now are going all in on the offensive lineman. And this is an offensive lineman. This is a player that fits exactly what you're looking for. You're not looking for anybody that's, obviously if you had the greatest center ever to come in and replace Parker Brailsford, you'd take him. But that's not what's out there. And I think Parker, with all that being said, is going to be a good player. I just have reservations because of everything that happened in the spring. Can that be overcome? Absolutely. He can overcome all that and become a great center this year, starting all 12 regular season games, snapping at 100% and being a great player. But because of what happened in the spring, Parker's dealing with some personal issues. He's not quite with the team right now. I think that plants the seeds of doubt. And to answer those seeds, or to, quell those seeds of doubt, you go out and get a guy like Gino Vandermark, someone who's familiar with the Chris Kapilovic system, and someone who knows, okay, I've been a rotational lineman up at Michigan State. I'm going to go to Alabama, and, very unlikely that I replace Tyler Booker or Jaden Roberts. I think that it's important to get a guy who's like, okay, you understand your role. You're coming in as a supplemental offensive lineman. Now, could he play and play well? Absolutely. Could injuries happen? Absolutely. You prepare for that by going out and getting a Gino Vandermark. And I think that would be a great, great option for Alabama. Now, you keep looking on message boards and talking to different people and hearing whispers about a safety out of Penn State, King Mack. And we've talked about Khalil Jacobs, the South Alabama linebacker, already a couple of different times. And maybe I'm just not very smart. That could be that could be the case. I don't know that Alabama has any more room. When I was doing scholarship numbers, I counted that Alabama had 83 scholarships before the Deshaun Jones commitment. That brings them to 84. That has not been made official, but it seems like it's going to be made official any day now. All right, if you're at 84, you only have one more scholarship remaining. Gino Vandermark fills that scholarship for the offensive line. And what do you tell King Mack, the safety from Penn State, or what do you tell Khalil Jacobs? Do you say, oh, so sorry, we're out of room? You might see some creative scholarship numbers. You might see some creative math. And if that's the case, if Alabama does end up with a King Mack and or Khalil Jacobs or both, and you're counting scholarships on rolltide.com and you come up with 86 or 87, I think you might find maybe some of these in-state Alabama kids aren't necessarily on scholarship, but NIL is helping Alabama overcome some of those numbers, get over the hump just a little bit. So it's going to be very interesting to see over the next couple of days what happens with Alabama. I think Gino Vandermark is on the 5-yard line. I think he's on the 5-yard line, about to cross the goal line and become a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm not really as sure about King Mack. And I'm not really sure about Khalil Jacobs either. Khalil Jacobs has flirted with Alabama. He flirted with, I'm going to go in the portal in December, and kind of withdrew and stayed at South Alabama. And then now he's gone into the portal again. Obviously, the connections with Kane Womack are very evident. And so people are putting 2 and 2 together there. But not really sure how those two guys are going to fit into the team. It's going to be very interesting to see how that happens over the next several days, if that happens over the next several days. All right, we're going to close that tab. We're closing that tab, and here we go. Last topic for the day. It's a short show today because there's not a whole lot of juice going on. But last topic for the day involves Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Chet Holmgren, and Scoot Henderson. All right, let's rewind. Let's rewind 11 months ago, right? 11 months ago in middle of June, Brandon Miller gets selected number 2 overall to the Charlotte Hornets, right behind Victor Wembanyama. And so if you remember that, you remember Charlotte booed the pick. Charlotte, we want Scoot Henderson. Absolutely trashed the pick. And what has happened? 11 months later, Victor Wembanyama is named NBA Rookie of the Year. You probably could have seen that coming a mile away. But Brandon Miller finishes 3rd, right behind Chet Holmgren, in front of Scoot Henderson, basically validating the Charlotte pick. And all those Charlotte fans 11 months ago, when you booed the pick, I just think that you got a lot of egg on your face. Now, as far as Brandon Miller goes, look, Brandon, amazing player, had a great season. Averaged 17 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game this year. You played in 74 games, 74 of the 82, and you started in 68 of them, averaging 32 minutes per game. So a really, really strong rookie year for you. Victor Wembanyama on the other side, he played and started in 71 games, averaging, 21.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, and almost 4 assists per game. Otherworldly. But who finished second in the Rookie of the Year is Chet Holmgren. And you're like, Chet Holmgren, he goes drafted. He wasn't in this class. You're absolutely right. Chet Holmgren ended up with a preseason injury, missed all of 2 years ago, and so technically the NBA considered him considers him a rookie this year. My man Chet Holmgren for the Oklahoma City Thunder averaged 16.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. So his numbers were, a little more well-rounded than Brandon Miller's. But, my man, this was his second year in the league. And so you get a little bit of tough circumstances for Brandon Miller. And it makes me think about really Brandon and his entirety of his career to date thus far. Brandon was in Alabama last year, had a great 2 years ago, obviously, and had a great season. It was an absolute pleasure to watch him. But then he goes into the draft, as he should have, and okay, you're the best college player, you're the best American in this draft. But you're not the number 1 overall pick because an absolute alien in Victor Wembanyama is coming over from France. And so, yeah, you got drafted number 2. That's great. But really and truly, Brandon Miller's skill set and Brandon Miller's freshman year here at Alabama, look, if Victor Wembanyama didn't exist, he'd be the number 1 overall pick. Okay, great. So you had some really weird circumstances. The alien kind of gets thrown in there, and it's like, okay, well, not much you can do with Victor Wembanyama and 7'4", 210 pounds, and just shooting from all over the place. Almost 50% from the floor this year as a rookie. All right, so you're dealing with it, and you look at the Rookie of the Year. You're like, okay, well, Victor's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Well, then you throw in the other guy, Chet Holmgren, the other number 2 overall pick. He was drafted number 2 from Gonzaga. Chet Holmgren. So it's just like more complications for Brandon Miller's career. And look, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. But I just find it funny that Brendan Miller might be the best college player that's coming into the NBA in 3, 4, 5 years, maybe in recent memory. But his rookie year was overshadowed by an alien and by another number 2 overall pick who just had an injury basically push his rookie year back. So the NBA is not really my forte. If you're watching the NBA tonight, you can see, I think it's the Thunder is taking on Oklahoma City Thunder. Who are they taking on tonight? 8:30. The Dallas Mavericks conference semifinals, game number 1. If you want to watch Chet Holmgren play, we'll get into a little more NBA in the future because our boss is Chris Walsh is getting involved in a lot of different websites. So we'll have coverage of the San Antonio Spurs. We'll have a little bit of talk on the Kansas City Royals as baseball gets heated up. We'll cover a lot of other SEC schools. We'll cover Mississippi State a little bit more this year, Missouri a little bit more this year, and whichever websites our boss, whichever programs and organizations our boss picks up right here. Chris Walsh, a part of the Bama Central, right here, a part of Bama Central. Look, the program's always going to be mostly about Alabama, but we will step out as more expansion gets underway right here in the network. We appreciate everybody who's watched us. We apologize. It was a little bit of a short, chaotic, random show today, but we were over at the Rhodes House, hanging out with Patrick Murphy, sending those girls off to Auburn. Hopefully they have a good week. Go leave it all out there on the field. They're going to take on LSU tomorrow at 10 a.m. You can keep up with baseball. Baseball is taking on Troy at 6 tonight. Our man Will Miller and Kim Rankin are going to be covering that. You can follow them at Real WB Miller and Kim Rankin 1 on the Twitter machine. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in and watched us today. You can find us at Joe Gaither 6 on any of your social media machines, whatever you like. It's at Joe Gaither 6. We'll be back to talk some more. We want to reach out and get a little insight on Hootie Ingram, who passed away, the athletic director and former Alabama athlete. Look, left a lasting legacy here at Alabama. So hopefully we can do that in the next couple of days. We appreciate everybody. Y'all stay dry on this Tuesday, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.